Welcome to the Times of Israel's The Reel Schmooze, bringing you all the entertainment news and movie reviews a Jew can use. I'm your host, Amanda Borschel-Dan, here with our movie maven, Jordan Hoffman. Jordan, thank you for coming at me straight from New Jersey.
I'm here in central New Jersey. Hello to everyone. Hello to all the listeners. Passover is over. Easter is over. Greek Easter, which comes later than non-Greek Easter, is over also. And now we're just into spring and also summer. It's very hot here on the east coast of the USA this week, which is fun. And thanks to all the listeners who wrote in after our episode of the Ten Commandments. We got a lot of amusing memories from people, and one woman agreed with me. She seemed to think that growing up in the USA, the Ten Commandments was split over 2 nights, and according to the internet, they only did it once. I read this on the source of all knowledge, Wikipedia, so I could do a little bit of a deeper dive, but according to Wikipedia, they showed it just in one marathon setting. But maybe this woman and I we imprinted on that one time when they split it over 2 nights.
So is that 5 commandments a night then?
Exactly. Precisely. Thou shalt not, thou shalt wait till...
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Yes.
Hold that thought. So that was fun. That seemed to, it's funny. We did that movie thanks to a recommendation from Yakov over there at TOI. It was a last minute, and it was a little corny. Nobody's going to want it, but apparently everybody who's old enough to remember watching it as a kid has fond memories of the Ten Commandments. So I do think we'll do maybe another sandal epic later on the Reel Schmooze, because we were reminded with listener comments that many of them, although the bulk of them tend to be about Roman stories and New Testament stories, there are some other Old Testament stories as well, and we can do that. Although I wouldn't mind doing a classic Jesus picture. King of Kings is a lot of fun. And Jesus Christ Superstar, of course, which was shot in Israel, is also a lot of fun. So someday,
yes, we got a great email about Jesus Christ Superstar, but I think we'll save that anecdote until we actually watch it. So I'm sure there'll be some other holiday that'll be appropriate for it. And you said Easter's over and Passover is over, but we here in Israel are in the thick of the holiday season. We had this week Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Remembrance Day, and then next week we have our Remembrance Day for the fallen soldiers and victims of terror, which goes straight into Independence Day. So we actually have a good film lined up for that, but we'll tell you what that is at the end of the program. So
absolutely.
Be in suspense. Okay, but Jordan,
yes,
I know you have a jangle for me, and I don't know what it is. So let's hear it.
It's I'll make it quick because I don't want to dwell on it. And it's a little bit funny in a dark context, but I wanted to share. As listeners know, I am engaged in an ongoing struggle to try and curb an addiction that I have. And it is an addiction I have to social media, which some weeks I'm really good and I just use it for work and I'm not getting involved. And some weeks I kind of dive back in, and social media is really bad. It's bad for my mental health, and I'm trying to get rid of it. And like for example, Facebook, this creation that we all use, is a great way to catch up on local news, to get a recommendation of like, is the new Chinese restaurant that opened any good? But, 3 minutes later, you're just hit with a wave of, and I think it's targeted to what you clicked on before. So you click on one anti-Semitism story, you get 25. But it's not just limited to anti-Semitism. There's racism of every stripe on social media that's just like impossible to handle. And these are our neighbors. You can click on their name. It's anti-Mexican sentiment. There's anti-Arab sentiment. There's anti-everything. There's anti-white, anti-black, anti-this, anti-that. But a lot of it is anti-Semitic.
That is a lot of sisters in that family.
Yeah. So there is a bit of
anti-black, anti-Arab.
It's everybody. Everybody hates everybody on my phone and all. I never put it on my phone, but it's on my laptop. I open my laptop and it's just like, remember this in Raiders of the Lost Ark when they open the Ark and it comes out and blasts and melts the face? That's what my laptop is like. The point is this. There is an ecosystem out there of a lot of knuckleheads whose job it is to stir up hatred and anger for clicks. And the easiest target are the Jews. And there are people that I wouldn't even say some align on the left, some align on the right. They align on their own pocketbook. They're just there to make money. And some of them are very famous, and I don't want to name their names, give them any extra oxygen. And some of them are on the up. They want to become the next that guy or that gal. It's not. And in fact, today's story does involve a young woman who is probably going to become someone who is famous in the Jew-hating sphere and probably hating a lot of other things. The story goes like this. This young would-be influencer was in New York City, in Times Square, with her camera, taking selfies and being loud and obnoxious. And it's somehow she came to realize that there were a group of Israelis hanging out in Times Square, just sitting there doing their thing, just enjoying the sun, being tourists. So she started screaming at them, and they were pretty calm, cool, and collected. They're just like, "Lady, why are you shouting at me?" And she was just being vicious and violent, saying some really nasty things, some vulgar things at these three guys that were just sitting there. And so you're saying, why am I what does this have to do with entertainment? Well, it's time.
I think it wasn't only me saying that, though.
Yeah. We can hear it. What does this have to do with entertainment? This is where it gets kind of funny, if you can find a silver lining in the story. She's screaming in broad daylight in Times Square. Now, what goes on in Times Square these days, for those people who live in the New York area or have visited recently? It's a tourist destination. And there are a lot of people who are now licensed. They have to get a license to go and dress up like pop culture figures for people to get a selfie, and then you ask for a tip. It's an actual, for people, it's a job. You apply, you have to buy your own costume, and you can dress like whomever. So this ranting, crazed woman, and she has the crazy eyes, and I don't, she thinks she's a little more attractive than she is, but that's besides the point. She's screaming and yelling. So finally, who interrupts? It's Spider-Man. So it's just like, this is the surrealism of our time. You have a ranting maniac screaming at just random people. I mean, yes, if you say I disagree with the Netanyahu government for the following 3 reasons, that's fine. You can do that in a debate class. She's not doing that. She's shouting obscenities in front of everybody in the middle of Times Square. And finally, Spider-Man shows up. And he's like, and acts like Spider-Man. Like, hey, you don't know these people. Let's not shout. And it's just like, it seemed fake. It seemed like like, this is what Spider-Man would do. I mean, Spider-Man is a man of peace, and he's clever. And of course, canonically, and you can read about it in Times of Israel, Spider-Man is always very coded Jewish. I don't know if the person inside of the Spider-Man suit in April of 2026 that works at Times Square is Jewish or not. But it was just kind of, I mean, I had to, like, that was the moment where I just, like, my brain just snapped. I mean, I was just giggling like a goofball. Like, I can't believe Spider-Man is coming to the aid of the IDF in Times Square. But he wasn't coming to the aid of the IDF. He was coming to the aid of people who wanted this woman to shut up, is what it was. So anyway, the that's the punchline. The follow-up to the story is the woman, people tracked her down, and she did get fired from her job, which is good. She worked in the mental health profession. That's what's pretty freaking scary. Yes, she was fired, and she is a counselor, was a counselor anyhow. So she has been fired. The company that employed her said, "Thank you, but you have been dismissed." But then she started raising money because she was fired because of free speech, which that's debatable. I mean, is it free speech to say foul language? Yes, I suppose it is. Is it free speech to harass random people in Times Square? This is open for discussion. But nevertheless, she raised a lot of money. Like, she doesn't have to look for a job for 6 months. I mean, that's the sad part. And the money came from all over the globe, not just the USA. I saw British pounds, I saw euros, I saw Canadian dollars, because that is a business. Hate is a business. Open. Don't go to college. Just go online and start screaming about the Jews and other ethnic groups and transgender people. And you will find, if you want to do that, you can. That is a revenue stream for you, but hopefully not anyone listening to this podcast. That's my jangle this week.
Do you have like a YouTube link on how to on that one?
How? That would be a funny, like a funny sketch. Like, you have these young hate mongers, like in class. They go to a class, like they have a learning annex, like how to be a proper hate streamer, and some of them
proper
are making
eye-popping position, stuff like that.
Yeah, they do. They all have to make the face. They have to point in a certain way. I mean, they have that for pornography, and this is not that different. They have pornography classes. like how to.
Jordan.
Yes,
we will talk. We have a new business model.
The hate one, not the pornography one. I hope.
No,
well, no, maybe I don't know. Who knows? But
it's a thin line.
It's a thin line.
Hopefully not too thin. Okay, all right, Jordan. We're gonna go to a break. And we're back. I'm Amanda Borschel-Dan here with our movie maven, Jordan Hoffman. Now, Jordan, it's interesting you're talking about free speech, etc., because the film we're discussing this week, and we're going to pound it to the ground, we're going to discuss it hard, is Yes by Nadav Lapid, and it has raised several eyebrows and a lot of ire here in Israel because it is incredibly, I would say, at least the government, if not, Israel. And it's now showing in the United States. It is 2.5 hours long. I watched all of it.
And That's great.
Yes, I did my homework. And I would say it's just terrible. I hated the film.
Well, it is provocative. I mean, it is meant to stir ire. It's made by someone who, he is Israeli. He lives in Paris, but he spends a lot of time in Israel still, and he hates Israel. I mean, and he says this. I mean, this is not interpretation. He wishes Israel would just leave his life, but he feels compelled to come back and make stories about Israel. Do you want to?
I don't care about the ideology of the film.
Yeah.
I think that just the film was terrible.
Well, I mean, it is very. It is a stylized motion picture, and it is.
Does that mean I'm not intellectually bright enough to get it?
No, not at all. It takes what we call a big swing, and it like some movies are, they have a certain look and feel and dynamism to them, and you either connect to it or repulses you. I mean, I don't know. A movie like a movie like La La Land takes a big swing, but it's pleasant. And who dislikes La La Land? It's nice. They're wearing bright colors and they're dancing. But it is a particular aesthetic set of choices. Nadav Lapid's films are abrasive and loud and maximalist and then very in your face. There's no subtlety here. And many people really resonated with this movie because there's a lot of people who were angry at the Israeli government all over the world and felt that this movie would sort of release some steam for them. But, I could totally understand just not digging with the way it's made. I've seen Nadav Lapid.
Let's set it up, Jordan.
Why don't you tell, because you saw more recently. Give me the, tell the plot of the story, basically.
Well, if we can call it that it has a plot, I mean, that's also, does it? But in any case, I would just like to set up the opening scene, which basically you're in this drug-filled, hedonistic party where our main character is doing all sorts of drugs, and he's also sucking on penises and crawling around on the floor, and the camera is shaking so much. I have migraines often, and I was saying, if I get a migraine from this thing, I'm going to be so mad. If you have epilepsy, do not watch it. It has flashing lights all over the place.
It does.
It's just like so unpleasant to watch. I would say the first 20 minutes of it. And my husband hung in there and he's like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? So he just rolled over and went to sleep.
Oh, no.
But I would say the beginning of it sets the pace because basically, if you like this beginning, you may like the film. If, like me, you're like, why am I here? You will continue to think that the entire 2.5 hours. And it has nothing to do with the ideology. I think,
interesting.
I think it's interesting because, our culture minister, Miki Zohar, said very over-the-top comments against this film because it is against the army and against Israel. I don't care about that. What I care about is why are my tax shekels going to such a piece of trash film?
Yeah. Well, very few. Well, I do. After we talk on the movie, we'll talk about the behind the scenes and your shekels because that story got a little bit blown out of proportion, but there is some truth to it. So yes, the opening bit is meant to be like. Yes. So the primary character, played by an actor whose name I wrote down in another thing here. The actor's name is Ari Schlacht, and his wife is Efrat Dor, and they're a young couple who are artists living in modern Israeli society, and there's no room for art in such a depraved culture. So they say yes, hence the title of the film, to any opportunity that comes to them, which means being sex workers, as you see in the opening scene and the weird threesome scene. And it also means they're musicians and dancers, so they go to this opening sequence you're talking about, which is meant to be like, from the pits of hell, a Hieronymus Bosch painting come to life of these sickening warmongers who are partying, and they're just sort of musical accompaniment. And it's a choreographed scene where the camera's doing all kinds of things. And then later it means our main character is commissioned by a somewhat nefarious figure who's meant to be like a Russian, who's that famous Russian guy?
Like an oligarch figure.
A Russian oligarch in Israel who, he has magical powers. He goes to the desert, he snaps his finger, and an ugly skyscraper appears. Kind of a cool sequence. So there's a lot of sort of fantasy in the film. He commissions him to write music to lyrics that are very, very belligerent and warmongering lyrics. And the punchline of the film is that this is an actual song that does exist, that a right-wing group in Israel did write, and it became a bit of a radio hit over there. You can tell me better than I can.
No, I would say it was in reaction to the October 7th massacre, and this came out in November 2023. So immediately after, there was this adaptation of an extremely famous Israeli War of Independence song written by Chaim Guri and set to music by Sasha Argov. These are two of the most esteemed songwriting and lyricists of the War of Independence era. And this song, it's called Shir HaReut. It is the song of fellowship. That's the basis to this, takeoff, shall we say, that was written in November 2023. It's heavily identified with former Prime Minister Rabin, and one of the lyrics is something about the curled fringe, and this is in a lot of people think that it's talking about Yitzhak Rabin himself, who is this just the Sabra Israeli warrior archetype figure for so many decades. And after his assassination, of course, this song was played on the radio, and every year in honor of his death and for the Remembrance Day, it's played over and over. And the whole thing about this song, it's talking about the fellowship, like brothers in arms, a band of brothers who are fighting together. And part of the lyrics are very descriptive of this, that the love will return with bloodshed. I'm not quoting exactly now.
Yeah.
And then in the November 2023 takeoff of it, some of the original lyrics stand, such as that line itself, that sanctified in blood lyric. That is from the original tune. But what's so chilling and disturbing about their takeoff of the song is that it's children singing words such as destroy and wipe out all of Gaza. So this is the whole thing.
So that part was added.
That part was added, correct.
Okay, so that became, I would imagine, a controversial thing within Israel, and then this movie uses that as fiction, because to people outside of Israel who had no idea of that history, they see the song being produced, and at the end they show, oh, by the way, this fictional element that you thought was made up, this is actually a real thing. And there's also a note in the film saying that the family of Chaim Guri disavowed the new version. So that happened. That was in reality in 2023. The family disavowed it, and they disavowed it further in the film. They didn't want it used in this film, but Nadav Lapid, does what he wants and said, at least he put in a note. He said, I'm doing this against the wishes of the family. Screw the family. Let's watch this movie. So, anyhow.
And Jordan, if you remember, okay, we're kind of jumping all over the place, but
like
it's
the movie
so
itself.
disturbing.
The movie is very swirly and,
Yeah, definitely. And if you remember, they played this clip with the children, the actual clip, and they black out the eyes of the actual children who sang.
Yes.
And then there's a further lyric that was added for the film itself, and they had a children's choir sing it, and they're all dressed in white, and they all have these braids. All the girls have these braids, and I sent you immediately the link to a girl who was famously pictured like that, and she died. She had a heart attack during the beginning part of the war following the October 7th massacre. She had a heart attack going to her sheltered space. And this picture of this girl has become so iconic because it's this fallen angel.
Sure.
And Nadav Lapid's further lyric to this song makes reference to these angels.
Oh,
and
so you feel this is a direct reference?
100%. In all the obituaries for this girl who died, she was very young, something like 9, I can't remember. Her father referenced her as an angel. The look is exactly this look. It is 1-to-1. And that further enraged me because how dare you? Dare you take this little girl's memory and twist it like this?
Well, no, that's bold for sure. I mean, the movie is clearly against the war, right? But the movie is not, like so many people on the left. It does take time to remark on the atrocities of Hamas and show that, you know, the main character, who is meant to be a reflection of the director's opinions, is, you know, not a fan, obviously, of Hamas, and also horrified by the events. And there's, in fact, several sequences where he's confronted, with visuals which we, the audience, don't see. There's a moment where somebody's like, it's a very twisted, depraved moment. He's like, I got the worst October 7th video you've ever seen. It's this guy who kind of is meant to look a little Trumpy because he's got a tan on his face. He's blonde. And he's like, I don't want to see it. He's like, I'm going to show you the worst video of all you've never seen. And it's kind of a weird. And then he's like, no, I don't want to see it. And then he does show it to him. We don't see it. And like, it's meant to be like this howling abyss moment. And he's very different. So it's like, and then there's another sequence where he's meets a friend whose job has been working for the Israeli government to, detail the horrors of October 7th. And she's a writer, basically. And she's been writing social media posts describing what's happened to all these people, and it's kind of broken her brain a little bit, which is understandable. And so she goes on like a moment where she gives a monologue and she's listing all the horrible things, and he and the film is very upset by this. This movie is not a pro-Hamas film, I think, at all. Perhaps some of the people who champion it are, but that's not the director's fault.
What was interesting about that scene, Jordan, and I think listen, I hated the film because I thought it was very badly done. Not something I would ever want to watch.
Of it. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I would ever want to watch any of his films again if they are like this. The ideas he presented, of course, they have nuance and reflections of Israeli society. And this particular scene that you're talking about, I mean, it's very interesting on so many levels to me because, of course, we have our Those We Have Lost project. And this is something that we at the Times of Israel have been very proud of doing. And my colleague Amy Spiro headed up this project, and she wrote something like 1,100 different obituaries covering those who were massacred on October 7th and those who fell in battle. Not every single soldier since October 7th, many of them. And of course, there's a huge purpose in commemorating their lives. We put the emphasis on life and also recording their deaths, right? Yeah. And so when this woman has a mental breakdown, essentially, and she's spewing it all out, it's because of two reasons. Number one, because the main character, Yud, Y, requested it of her in order to get some kind of like booster shot of ideology so he can remember what he's doing, what his purpose is in order to write this terrible anthem.
Right, yeah.
And number two, it was so just important. I mean, part of what she said is that she is a translator and she translated it into 7 different languages, I think she said. But Israel's, public relations effort has been so awful, so poor, that it was just fascinating to me that he even included this in it was some kind of archetypical figure, because there wasn't that. There was such a vacuum. There was not this figure to spread the word.
So you're saying that perhaps, I understand where you're going with it, but perhaps like it would have been better if a woman like this did exist, because it could have been helpful. That's fascinating. Yeah. This is really interesting because a lot has been written in the U.S. about this film, and not at all with the awareness and understanding that you're bringing to it. So this is really interesting. Um, the other part of the movie is like sort of how it was made. So the first half is it's like a drunken haze, or a drug fueled haze, lots of parties. And then lots of the man and the woman are having like hateful sex, because they're angry. And then they try to go out and have a nice day, but they keep getting alerts on their phone about the war. And, there are scenes where he's like by the beach and he's like, oh, it's so nice here. And everybody's riding their bicycle. And then he gets a beep on his phone. He sees, 32 civilians were killed in Gaza because of a mistake or something. And it's upsetting. And then there are other moments where he's also on the beach where he recognizes that Israel is beautiful. And he says, why can't I just say yes, which is the title of it, say yes to everything around me, say yes to the pomegranate vendor and the beach and all that. But he can't do it because he's a dissident. And then the movie takes, the second half is when he goes to visit this friend to try and find inspiration for his anthem. And he travels to the south, and they travel to the border of Gaza. And the behind the scenes of it is they actually did take a very small film crew without permits. And they went as close to the Gaza border as they could. And they shot a fictional movie with smoke in the background and bombs. And that is unusual, to put it that way. I mean, you're not going to see that in every film. It's a striking thing. And that has had a lot of resonance with people. Just sort of oh my God, they're actually at the border of Gaza. You can see smoke in the background.
It's not a green screen.
It's not a green screen. Yeah. Nothing green about it. So that's the thing. Now, the other thing about the movie is just sort of behind the scenes. This is his fifth feature film. It is his most amped up, supercharged. And it is, again, I agree with you, not because of ideology. It is my least favorite of his 5 movies. It's 2.5 hours. It could be maybe 103 minutes, I think. We got
Just
the
think
point.
of the first scene, right? It was
I liked
20, 25 minutes. Really? Okay.
Well, I mean, maybe, yes, it does go on a bit long, but I felt that first scene of that insane raging party sequence, the music and the dancing, it was all choreographed. I actually did respond well to that, but that's my taste. Of his 5 films, I would say 3 or 4 of them are very political. One of them is not particularly political at all, and that's the one that's had the American remake. It's called The Kindergarten Teacher. Maggie Gyllenhaal's in the American version. Very good movie, I think. So the other interesting controversy is this, and this is a little bit humorous, I find. Right now, there is this is an art film, right? So it appeals to a certain type of audience. And most of these people who would be seeing quote unquote art films that debut at the Cannes Film Festival and whatnot, are boycotting Israeli products right now. Not all of them, but many of them. But this movie is very much speaks to their interests because it is a very pointed dissident film about Israel from an Israeli voice. And the movie does have a little bit of Israeli Minister of Culture financing to it. A little bit. It's one of the 17 names you see at the beginning of the film. The money came from France. It came from, I don't know, Belgium, wherever. And then some of it came from the Israel Film Fund, which is a non-governmental organization run in conjunction with people who work at the Jerusalem Cinematheque, and then there's some American people involved, and it kind of gets rubber stamped. But it's not a lot of money. You said, why my tax dollars going to this?
I said shekels.
Shekels, sorry. Very, very little. And then there was also the Minister of Culture had a stamp on it because it's sort of like pre-approved, and Nadav Lapid is, although he's someone, that has tussled with the Israeli government before. This is not the first time that the Minister of Culture has condemned him. It was a different Minister of Culture has condemned him. It just kind of gets rubber stamped. But now he's on the outs after this one because times have changed. But what's funny is, so the point is this: because it has Minister of Culture from Israel and the Israel Film Fund on it, it can't be seen by these people because they have to boycott it. And it has caused consternation. And Nadav Lapid is aware of this fact. And in fact, he has, if you read an interview with him in Vanity Fair, which you should read, he kind of makes fun of the super left in the West. Is like, he said this is the best movie made about Gaza, and it's made from the belly of the beast, as he puts it. No, he doesn't say the best movie about Gaza. He says the best movie about the genocide. He calls it the genocide, which many people do and some people do not. He says the best movie of the genocide is made by an Israeli, and the people that are safe in the West and that go, live on campus in Boston and protest can't accept the fact that an Israeli voice would have the best film about that. So he has a little bit of that Israeli chutzpah to him. And that has caused him more controversy because it's like, hey, buddy, F you. So there are people who are dismissing this movie because they think I don't want to see something that's anti-Israeli propaganda. And then there are other people who say, I do want to see anti-Israeli propaganda, but I won't see it because it has the Israeli Film Fund logo on it. But what Lapid says, and he's probably right, is like, it has nothing to do with that. It's like, if I had no money from the Israeli Film Fund, if it all came from France and Belgium, they wouldn't see it because of me. And we'll never know, but he's probably right. So he has an awareness. He's a troubled man. I mean, I don't mean troubled like he has mental issues. I mean, he is someone who is deeply upset about the politics of Israel and this war. And he's made a work of art about it. It didn't resonate with you. I found it interesting. I will, again, he's made 5 films. I list this one last, not because of politics, but because I got the point. It's 2.5 hours and I got the point in very quickly, I found that the hazy drug-fueled sequences, some of which are very creative, but some of them just go on too long. And then when he goes in the dark plunge of the soul and he goes to the border of Gaza, he starts speaking with the ghost of his dead mother who's raining rocks down on him. I got the point. But I do think that the movie is interesting because there are very few films from Israel right now that are being, that are even considered worthy of examination by the critical establishment. There's a lot of stuff happening on Israeli TV, but the film biz has kind of stayed pretty insular lately. It wasn't that the case 10 years ago. This movie did debut at the Cannes Film Festival, but it was not in competition. It was in a sidebar. Other Lapid films have debuted in competitions, and Lapid has said, oh, it's because they didn't know what to do. It's like, we can't program an Israeli, unofficially, nobody will go on the record about this. It's like, we can't program an Israeli film. We'll get boycotted. It'll be crazy, but it's Lapid. He's kind of in the family already, and he's also a dissident, so maybe it's okay. And they kind of shunted it off to the side. And this was last year's Cannes, 2025, and there are many people who have said with clear eyes, had it been in the competition, it was a lot better than a lot of the other movies in the competition.
Wow, I feel so bad for that jury if that's the case.
And he's won awards. I mean, he's won an award at Cannes before for his previous movie. He won the jury prize, and he won the top prize for a movie even before that called Synonyms, which I happen to like. That is the one at Berlin. So, I mean, he's in the club of the elite, esteemed, arty-farty movies that and so yes, has had some ripple effects, and a lot of it is because of this kind of conflict of, oh, I really want to champion this movie, but I can't. I'm saying some people that are on the left, and I've seen this in reviews from mainstream organizations have not done this. New York Times and the LA Times and Vulture magazine have all written positive reviews, in Variety. It's gotten very, very good reviews in the US. But then there have been some independent bloggers who have written about the film and have said nice things about it, but they open with this struggle session, this Maoist struggle session. It's like, I know I shouldn't engage with a film that violates the BDS because this has the logo of the Israel Film Fund. And what's so funny is like a 10th, a 20th, a 30th of the budget came from the Israel Film Fund. It's really not an Israeli movie. The guy lives in Paris. I mean, it's shot in Israel, but it's... Anyway, the struggle session I find on these independent bloggers is like, get over yourselves. Watch the movie, respond to it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. And then you could say, I should have boycotted in the first place. Anyhow, that's Yes, a movie that is out in the US right now. It will eventually come to streaming. It's interesting. And it's causing a big fuss.
All right, we're going to go to a short break, and then we're going to talk about a few things that I actually did like about the film.
Okay, good.
And we're back. I'm Amanda Borschel-Dan here with our movie maven, Jordan Hoffman. Now, Jordan, I grew up in a family of musicians, and yes. I believe you did as well. correct?
My father is a musician still, yes.
Yes. And there were several very nice musical scenes in the film beyond the propaganda that we discussed earlier. And I have to say, hands down, my favorite part of the film is when he performs, the main character Yud performs a piano duet with an actress who is actually Nadav Lapid's wife. His Yud's childhood friend in the film is Nadav Lapid's wife. She's a semi-known actress, definitely known in Israel and I'm sure elsewhere. And they performed this amazing, rollicking, comic kind of cabaret, I don't know, just a fantastic piano duet together. Do you recall that scene, Jordan?
No, I don't actually. There's a lot going on in this film. Is this like kind of toward the end you're talking about, or?
Yeah, they're in a hotel having a bite to eat.
Oh, and then yes. That scene. Oh, okay. Right after the monologue. Yeah. Oh, that's his wife. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. That was a nice scene. Yeah.
It really was. And I would have to say the character who stole the film for me, hands down, handsome gentleman, is their 1-year-old baby, Noah.
Yeah.
Though I have to say that it was extremely heavy-handed, I would say, to name this child Noah, Noah, the person who launches beyond the borders to save humanity.
Yes.
And the whole premise of the film
is
that this boy will not grow up in Israel.
Yeah.
He'll be in a place where he only
put him on
sees
the ark.
green.
Yeah, and they're going to send him to Europe somewhere. He's going to live in France. And the kid, of course, was born on October 8th, 2023.
Yep.
Which, unless he's lying, and I wouldn't put it past Lapid, he's a bit of a huckster, he claims that his son was born on October 8th, 2023.
There you go.
So he does have a child, and that's what he claims. So that is fascinating. Yeah, I mean, I thought, and listen, the if I may, the lead lady in the film, who's oftentimes in various states of undress, is also quite fetching as well. She plays a yoga instructor. If you're going to cast a
hip hop, I think.
Hip hop yoga. She does hip hop yoga. I mean, that's I need to make a movie with a young actress. Well, oh yeah, she's a yoga instructor and doing hip hop dance. Well, why not? So, yeah, I mean, it has its. I would say. So you're going to come out and say it is a what is our low grade again? It's meh. Not bad and pass.
Not bad is the high.
Yeah, not bad is high.
Meh is our mid grade. Yeah. Oi is our lowest grade. But I'm going to add one here.
Oi plus or no?
Deep this oi. Is an atomic oi.
Atomic oi.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going meh, which puts me at odds with many of my colleagues who love this film. They're doing cartwheels of it, and for some of them, for sure, it's a release valve because they can write about. Lapid has given nuanced thinkers in the West an ability to say something critical about Israel that they perhaps would be uncomfortable saying because it is an Israeli filmmaker who does it, so it's okay. It's like when Chris Rock makes fun of black people. I'm serious. It's the exact same thing. When Chris Rock makes fun of black people, you can laugh at it. So when Nadav Lapid shows a version of Israeli society that is gluttonous and warmongering and with blood dripping down their chin, you can interact with it that way. Some people, many people, like we talked about in the Jangle, don't need that cover. They're happy to do it any day of the week. Luckily, most of my colleagues aren't in that camp. They're in a more civilized, nuanced, ride the fence camp, which I appreciate. And so I don't think anyone who loves this film, I don't, I think they have this movie comes correct. It is an anti-Israel film that at least shows the receipts. It's like, look, I'm going to make a big movie about all of my thoughts about this, and I'm not just going to wing it. It's a difficult film. It's highly choreographed. It's certainly long. It's got a lot of music, as you say. So it's something that I think is made in good faith. Okay, let's put it that way. Whereas a lot of things you'll see in like some other movies and certainly stuff online is not made in good faith. It's just meant to trick you up and be obnoxious. So my grade is a meh. I'm gonna come in with a straight up meh. A B minus C plus, I guess. But I like his other films better, and not just because of the politics. I mean, I also, hey, let it be known, if this movie were made about America, I would not be upset. I mean, you could make. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but the first draft of the script was written before October 7th. And then there was a moment when his producers were thinking, we can do this in the U.S., and they wanted to shoot it in L.A., and he wanted to cast Joaquin Phoenix in the lead. And you could do it about, I mean, there are a lot of specific things in this film about October 7th, like the monologue we discussed, the fact that they go to the border of Gaza, the fact that they reference that young girl, which, that was the draft too. But you could do a version of this about, the Trump world, and it would work. And it almost did. It was after October 7th where he said, no, we can't do it in LA. We got to do it back home in Tel Aviv. So,
I can see that. And, hedonism is happening throughout the world. No question. I mean, this morning when I was driving into the Jerusalem studio, I had to explain it to my husband, who, as I said, just said, and rolled over and went to bed. And I said to him, listen, it's very drug-driven film made for people who understand what it's like to be on drugs by somebody who probably is using too many drugs right now. And, it's quite possible that his next film will be less like that. And who knows? But I have no reason to watch that one. Yeah. Jordan Hoffman.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. So let's talk about next week.
So next week is, as I mentioned, our Remembrance Day and our Independence Day, and that is partly why we're going to go with what we decided to watch. But if you recall, we did ask for reader input, and we had two options. One was Exodus, which I've never seen, with Paul Newman, and the other was Jesus Christ Superstar, which I can't remember if I saw, so let's go with haven't seen. And resoundingly, I would say it came out Exodus.
Yeah, everybody either said Exodus or just said do both at some point. So nobody said don't do Exodus. So, I mean, we were going to do Exodus always, but the fact that this is going to coincide with Independence Day. Exodus is also very long, and Exodus we'll talk about it. It's an interesting movie. I have seen it. I've seen it more than once, but it's been a long time. So I am looking forward to reviewing it. There is a wonderful parallel, and this will not color too much my thoughts on the film, but yes is an artistic statement, but it is boldly anti-Israel propaganda. I mean, that the director would agree to that sentiment. Exodus, made in 1960, is boldly pro-Israel propaganda. And the director, if Otto Preminger was still alive, would agree to that too. So that we're seeing these two movies back to back that have a very pointed political point of view and are with very specific aims, I think is very funny. This will be the first podcast in the history of podcasting ever to do Nadav Lapid's Yes and Otto Preminger's Exodus back to back. It'll be everybody will get whiplash from listening, and I'm very curious your thoughts. The one other thing which you already know is that much of the film was shot on location, and you will see in beautiful 1960s style film grain moments from the old city of Jerusalem as they were. And for that alone, I think you will find it very intriguing.
All right. I can't wait to watch it. So Jordan, as always, it's been such a pleasure schmoozing with you. And thank you so much.
Thanks to the listeners, and we'll see you next week.
Yes. Thanks for listening to The Times of Israel's The Reel Schmooze. Please check out our next installment next week. What else do I usually say?
This episode was engineered by Ari Schlacht.
Thank you, Jordan. And if you have any comments or questions about this or any other episode, please drop us an email to podcast@timesofisrael.com. We love them all. Thank you so much. Until next week, shalom.